Hello and welcome to MVP, the Master's Voice podcast, our award-winning series from Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan Chawla, founder-editor of Mediabrief.com, and my distinguished guest on this episode is a remarkably accomplished and respected marketing leader whose work empowers a global powerhouse in hospitality, Marriott International Incorporated, across the entire South Asia region, India included, where she drives marketing across, 144 operating hotels across South Asia. Please join me in welcoming Khushnooma Kapadia, Senior Area Director of Marketing South Asia at Marriott International Inc. Khushnooma, welcome to MVP, the Master's Voice podcast on Mediabrief.com.
Thank you so much, Pavan. This is a real privilege. I sincerely appreciate you inviting me for this very esteemed podcast, and I'm so excited to be speaking with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Khushnooma. You're very gracious. And, it's wonderful to be speaking with you, doing this in person across, a long desk so that our audio tracks remain separate.
That's true.
But you've been amazing. Thank you for the warmth and hospitality. And thank you for giving the time to this episode. And thanks also to Sharon Johnson of Avian We and Afsha Khalfe of your comms team for having made this interaction possible. So, as I said, my listeners, Khushnooma is sitting right across the table from me to record this episode. And her infectious smile is not just good to see, but is incandescent in spite of the fact that she heads marketing for 144 Marriott international hotels across all of South Asia, each filled with numerous festival days a year, with thousands of rooms and hundreds of restaurants to be marketed and sold every year. That, Khushnooma, tells me a lot about your personality and attitude. Sure, you're in the hospitality industry and, smiles come out automatically, but you've also done and achieved so much in the past.
Thank you so much, Pavan. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Before we get into our conversation for this episode, Khushnooma, allow me to tell my guests about you. My distinguished guest on this episode of MVP, the Master's Voice podcast on Mediabrief.com is Khushnooma Kapadia, Senior Area Director of Marketing South Asia, Marriott International Inc. And she's a prolific, respected and very result-oriented marketing leader who across her 16 plus years with the company has led the marketing and brand roadmap as well as launched multiple new properties within the Marriott portfolio in India. Khushnooma is focused on driving business excellence across every marketing vertical that in turn drives brand Marriott. Under Khushnooma's leadership, Marriott emerged as the number one global hospitality brand in India. She manages all 16 brands of Marriott International of the Marriott International portfolio present in India and is responsible for the strategic growth of these brands under the consortium. Khushnooma now leads, as I said, 144 operating hotels in South Asia. She has pioneered several campaigns which were ahead of their times and have thereby, gone beyond the otherwise traditional hospitality landscape. In an impressive career spanning 20 years, Khushnooma has worked in both finance and communications, and now, of course, she's doing brilliantly well in marketing. But before, as I said, while working in finance and communications, she was with excellent entities like Arthur Andersen and Good Relations, respectively. Articulate, intelligent, and self-motivated, Khushnooma actually follows and encourages a healthy work-life balance and continues to reinvent, push boundaries, and set new benchmarks in the business and marketing arenas. Along with other accolades, Khushnooma has won the Women Leadership Achievement Award by the World Women Congress and 50 Most Talented CMOs in India, that's where she was listed, by World Marketing Congress. She also won the Global Marketing Leader of the Year by Marriott International for 2 consecutive years in 2015 and 2016. And, for a truly quality-conscious and excellence-driven entity and a whole global organization, that's an amazing couple of achievements in consecutive years. So that's Khushnooma Kapadia, Senior Area Director of Marketing South Asia, Marriott International Inc. and my distinguished guest on this episode of MVP, the Master's Voice podcast on Mediabrief.com. So Khushnooma, thanks once again for being on this episode of MVP, the Master's Voice podcast on Mediabrief.com. I am a huge fan of the hospitality industry, have worked in it with the Oberoi Group before I moved to media, entertainment, marketing, comms, brand building and now publishing too, and so very many years ago. So I'm keenly looking forward to our conversation. In fact, I am hoping you will be able to share some very valuable insights and wisdom from your vast experience with younger marketing professionals. So I am looking forward to a deep dive with you.
Absolutely looking forward to it too. I think if I can provide insights that can help the new generation in terms of choosing marketing as a career option, and the fact that, establish that there are so many opportunities of growth that are available to you if you're successful, I think I'd be very privileged. It would be an honor.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, Khushnooma, Marriott International Inc. has a massive footprint in the hospitality industry across the entire APAC region and South Asia. What has been the legacy of the brand, and how has it deployed its best global practices to carve its own space amongst its, Indian patrons?
So let me just go back a little bit in retrospect. When I joined Marriott International in 2003 is when I joined the company. And we had just established the JW Marriott Juhu. That hotel was just launched 6 months before I had joined. Prior to that, we already had the Goa Marriott Hotel, and we had the Renaissance in Pavan.
Right.
So we were 3 hotels literally in 2003. And today, when you look back at the canvas of the portfolio in this country, we are 134 in India and 144 in South Asia.
Wow.
So the journey and the transition as well as the trajectory has been extremely accelerated for this company, which pretty much establishes the kind of opportunities, the kind of brands, the kind of positioning, as well as the kind of culture that we provide as an organization, and the kind of growth that we have as at a bird's eye view, at a laser focused goal for ourselves. Growth pretty much stands as the epicenter of everything that we do within this company.
Sure.
And hence we've been absolutely on track with our growth trajectory, which also comes to the fact that we're a management company. Our model is an owner management company, and that pretty much goes to show how much our owners endorse us as a brand. And that's testimony to what we have delivered on the table over the last so many years, whether it comes to profitability, it comes to our operating procedures, it comes to the culture, it comes to our human resource practices, and then of course the way we've marketed the brand in this country. And today we are, like you said, we're a consortium of 16 brands. At that point of time, we were only 3. And it just goes to show that we have what it takes for every customer at every price point, at every target market. And that's huge growth.
No, that's amazing, and essentially what really drives an entire team like yours in India is the belief that the promoters, the owners have in the people they handpick, cherry pick, and then they entrust with all the great work that has to be done, and you really have delivered. So, Khushnooma, what are the, let's say 2, 3, 4, whatever number of key words that sort of express the values or the culture or the quality or whatever is critical to the DNA of Marriott International?
I think I'm going to reference back to Bill Marriott's vision, and that pretty much states the entire ecosystem of how we operate at the Marriott. And his vision was take care of your associates. We call our employees our associates because they are very much partners in profit.
Right.
Take care of your associates, and your associates will take care of your guests.
Lovely.
And I think the entire culture dynamic of our organization runs on this ethos. And which is where 2 words that I would take out of this statement is take care.
Lovely.
And I think that is what has consistently driven us to be a great place to work. That consistently drives the aspirational value of why young people want to work with an organization like Marriott. Because at the end of the day, of course, the bottom line is critically important. We are a very performance-driven company. And in today's very extensive business environment, if you're not performance-oriented, you don't stand a chance.
Sure.
But at the end of it all, we drive performance through our people.
Lovely.
And the only way to do that is by taking care of them.
Beautiful. Very short, but really strong 3-link chain. You, your associates, and the guests.
Yes.
And I noticed you didn't call them customers. Lovely. Yeah, that is something which applies across all hotels. Treat them as guests, call them guests. Right, you already told me about the footprint in India and South Asia. So, from looking closely at Marriott International in India and South Asia, Give me your quick back of the envelope kind of bird's eye view of the hotels and hospitality industry in India and where the Marriott Group stands, there in terms of presence and market share vis-a-vis the competition. And you already told me its vision and mission in India is to take care of its guest and be very bottom line driven. So it's a chain where neither is negotiable.
Neither is negotiable. You're absolutely right.
So, a bird's eye view of hotels and the hospitality industry in India?
So, I think over the last couple of years, we've seen that travel has absolutely exploded into everybody's preferential dynamic as a family, whether you're traveling for work, whether you're traveling for business. We've become a much smaller world than what we were.
Sure.
And the only way we can bring boundaries closer is by really engulfing travel into our ecosystem of living. So hotels and the hospitality industry has emerged as a very critical industry. We've seen that the recent government has got travel and tourism as a very big priority on its list of things they want to accomplish or the things that they want to position India as.
And support.
And we are very grateful to this government to recognize the fact that India can be put on the global map by really pushing travel and tourism, and the kind of endeavors and the kind of regulations that they have incorporated within the travel and tourism industry is huge testimony to how much impetus we've got as an industry.
Lovely. I couldn't agree with you more. Really, the government needs all the kudos, and I'm glad that you've expressed
Absolutely.
it. Perhaps on behalf of, Marriott International, but I'm sure on behalf of the entire hospitality, MICE.
The entire gamut, the ancillary industries, the allied industries, travel is a very interconnected business at the end of the day.
Yes.
And hence, we're grateful. We're grateful that India has provided this opportunity of growth. As I mentioned earlier as well, today we are such a vast company, both globally as well as in South Asia. So I feel that hospitality industry is going to only grow from here.
Absolutely. And just a little disclaimer, I'm sure that we are not referring to or referencing the past 2 odd years, or slightly less, during which hospitality, travel, tourism had absolutely flatlined to zero. So I'm not even going to ask you how it impacted you, because every player was impacted. There must have been layoffs, there must have been whatever rehiring and all of that. But let's not revisit that painful chapter. Let's look ahead. One beautiful thing I want you to look back on as I look ahead to the future of Marriott is that, under your leadership, Khushnooma, Marriott emerged as the #1 global hospitality brand in India. So what went into helping you win that coveted title? What are the unique strengths of the Marriott properties of Marriott International in India, Khushnooma?
So Pavan, actually, I will not take the credit for this. The reality is that as a marketing leader, I had the privilege to work with very visionary bosses and very visionary leaders who recognized the fact at a very early on nascent stage when Marriott was growing that without marketing, without public relations, and without brand positioning, the company is not going to get the kind of elevated status that it needs to.
And deserves, I think.
And deserves, for that matter.
Right.
And hence, as a matter of fact, we got the necessary marketing dollars. We got the necessary support. Like you mentioned, some of the campaigns that we ran were way ahead of their time. So the point is that if today we are a #1 travel company in the world, it has been led by some serious vision, confidence, support. And as a marketing leader, I think the overarching factor was trust.
Lovely. And trust only comes to the deserving associates.
Yes.
Within such a quality conscious global, kind of sparkling leader like the Marriott International is. Khushnooma, before I go on to my next slightly long question, which is about marketing and hospitality marketing, I want you to tell me and my listeners, they would have inferred all the great stuff you've brought to your table, your work table, from my brief profile of yours. But I want to ask you, what are the learnings, insights, what strengths or whatever, what are your assets that you bring to the table in the marketing space, in the communication space, in the brand building space, from all your experience? What are your beliefs?
My biggest belief is that one shouldn't shy away from failing. And that has propelled me to take too many risks. Some of them have paid off, some have not.
Okay.
But that hasn't stopped me from advancing my thought process to thinking 5 years down the line.
Wow.
I do not believe in restricting my thought into a short term. I believe in the longevity of the brand. And that, I think, has been a strength that I have been managing to leverage within myself. There have been times when I have been nervous because some of these risks are huge risks. But like I said, the faith, trust that we have as an organization into each other has just constantly propelled me to move forward and to make sure that I position Marriott as a company that's not just a travel company or a hospitality company.
So right, like I said, Khushnooma, your reply to my next slightly long question will help a lot of marketers in hospitality. Khushnooma, you head marketing for the Marriott group across all of South Asia, India included, of course. And that is a massive mandate, 144 plus hotel properties, heading all of marketing for all of them. How is your marketing team tiered and structured to provide customer awareness and customer acquisition support to your overall sales efforts and targets across the South Asian region and India? How many members in your team? How have you set it up as you've grown?
It's been a process of evolution. When I came into the organization, we were just a 3-member marketing team at a property level.
2003,
yes.
Okay.
We never really had a corporate structure at that point of time. But as we started taking on more hotels, and then we realized that kind of expertise lends itself to a vast number of hotels. We don't just need to restrict into individual field marketing setups. We've built this entire corporate structure.
Look at the group level, you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of campaigns that impact the entire portfolio and not necessarily at a hotel level. So today we are a very evolved structure as far as marketing is concerned. I sit at the corporate level. I have a team of close to about 15 people who directly work with me. Those 15 people are either advertising. There is an entire digital vertical that is servicing only the digital requirements of the organization. And we have a PR setup as well. And then every hotel has their individual marketing resources.
Okay. So I believe it's a team of close to 80 odd people who directly or slightly indirectly work with you under your supervision and guidance and cooperation.
Yes, across all the hotels in the entire portfolio.
Lovely. How do you find time for work-life balance?
That's the beauty of this company and the culture, right? There's a lot of importance that is given to work life. And hence it's steered in that fashion so that work is spread adequately.
Lovely. And Khushnooma, what are the business opportunities, objectives, goals? How is your marketing team, your department actually, the overall department, helping, let's say, sales achieve all the goals and targets across rooms and F&B, etc.?
Yes. So we're a company that has got a very defined balance scorecard. This balance scorecard, every single individual within this company has a balance scorecard. The balance scorecard is a representation of all the goals, as well as all the key metrics that you need to achieve within those goals. And hence the expectations are very well defined.
Okay.
So we know exactly what we want to achieve in terms of the financial metrics for that particular year. So for example, RevPAR Index, which is where the sales and revenue teams are custodian of. I have that in my balance scorecard as well, because everything that I will do towards the campaigns as far as rooms is concerned directly supports what their goals are. So it's interconnected, and similarly for food and beverage as well.
Lovely. And when you look at the different slices of your overall revenues, like a hotel's overall revenues, and I'm oversimplifying, okay? There's the rooms division and the F&B or food and beverage. In the past, the split between the two used to be roughly 70 rooms and 30% F&B, give or take 5%. What is it nowadays? Of course, it'll be different for each category or type of hotel, but nevertheless, a broad back of the envelope split. Give it to me at the pre-COVID levels and what it is looking like when we are in the beginning of the post-COVID times.
So I think a split would be totally oversimplifying it. And I think 60-40, it's a fair split to really give.
Got it.
But rooms continues to be the mainstay of our entire business.
Absolutely. And a room night that's not sold once is gone forever, like an airline seat.
Totally.
Yeah. And of course, F&B is also extremely important because I remember when I was in the Oberoi school, Mr. Bicky Oberoi used to say that rooms are extremely important. They are the lifeblood. But then, F&B gives you the best word of mouth in a city also.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I think rooms are hygiene. Food and beverage is what drives your positioning.
Wonderful. Well said. Well said.
Hygiene is critically important, and so is food and beverage.
Absolutely. And continuing about marketing, tell me how your marketing teams support the objective of, if you have that objective, of wresting back bookings control from customer direct channels of OTAs or, online travel agents, from there to direct sales, because OTAs will take commissions from you and will take away a big part of your revenues. I'm sure that's an important focus area. So what are the kind of initiatives that you...
So basically, travel confidence is growing. I think it's reflected by the overall rise in occupancy rates and online hotel bookings.
Sure.
As a company, we are working tirelessly in establishing the right mix of online booking channels that not only meet the growing demand for accommodation but also maximize profits. So on one side, we have the OTAs. They are very vital distribution partners to sort of liquidate the unsold inventory and put heads in beds.
Sure.
However, on the other side, we also have the hotel's direct channel, which is our brand.com, which is clearly the most profitable medium for online booking. So establishing a better mix between bookings from third-party distributors and direct bookings really is what helps us maximize revenue and then, of course, take full advantage of our inventory and our projected market growth.
Lovely.
So just one thing I just want to say, our goal is to really uplift ADR, and I think to improve the retail mix, maintaining occupancy, as well as continue to be aggressive on our ADR is really what our objective is.
Lovely, lovely. And I'm sure there must be a lot of initiatives like stronger loyalty programs, exclusive discounts, guarantees of best prices from your direct.com also.
Absolutely.
Because imagine, the OTAs are definitely helping and really helping put, like you so nicely said, heads in bed. Okay, or heads in beds. But look at booking.com, 400 million unique users.
Absolutely.
Right? And then all the, Exigos and all the others. So, yeah. Okay, and Khushnooma, actually, hospitality, global excellence, great legacy from the Marriott International Group. So, my question, I think I shouldn't be asking you this, but if there is some answer to it, then let me know. Otherwise, I think it'll be the same style and ethos of marketing. So my question was, how is your method and process of marketing the Marriott International offerings for India different from that for the rest of the South Asia or from the rest of the world, if it is different?
It is different,
okay.
I think, and it is different because the market is different.
Okay.
And I think India as a country is a very unique country, right? We're a massive piece of geographical land on a boundary, but within that we have separate micro markets. So at the end of the day, the reality is you've got to market through a language barrier. You've got to market through a price point barrier, through a target audience barrier. So it is different. It is catered. And that's the beauty, because of a large conglomerate. You can actually cater to different markets and their needs.
Absolutely. So, Khushnooma, you have both, business to business and business to consumer target groups.
Yes.
Okay, B2B obviously is the corporates, the GCRs or guaranteed company rates for discounts, etc., etc. And then there is a direct consumer. You have your airport reps. You have a lot of other direct channels, right? Walk-ins, etc., etc. So how do you approach informing them and converting them into customers, your marketing plans, mix and tactics? Because they're both different groups.
Yeah, they are. And actually the reality is that they both need very different shapes and forms of marketing and a very different outlook.
Sure.
B2C is very simple. B2C is very defined. There is an entire channel that you can sort of, completely light up when you really have a B2C campaign.
Right.
B2B is slightly tricky, and we need to work with our sales counterparts to make sure that we're reaching the right target audience. And hence, a lot of times we use B2C mediums like LinkedIn, for example, to get to a B2B customer. We utilize the intranets of certain corporates. It's very simple. Now we've started doing that. We've started identifying important corporates, designating, curating certain offers that can only work for that particular company and its certain decision makers, and using their internal communication systems to drive messages. So B2B is it's tricky, but
and it's more direct approach driven.
It's very cut and dry. It does not need any embellishment. B2B has a message. You need to deliver the message, and you need to make sure that the message is understood. So we don't really necessarily need to over embellish it and to make it marketing in its marketing avatar. But we need to make sure that there is a value-driven proposition when you're really doing B2B marketing.
Okay. And when you say that you deploy their intranets of B2B entities, obviously it's through them. Once you come to a decision and an agreement or something, that's when you ask them to spread the word internally.
And everything is relationship based, right?
Absolutely. And so it has to also be very under the radar, not in the public domain, because these are deals that vary from one to the other. And what new rate you would give to some other group corporate?
It's not just a deal or a discount. It's like I said, it's a value proposition. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need to drive.
So how do they judge value apart from the numerical number for deal percentages? Instead of a discount, what do they look at to judge the value that you said?
Experiential benefits.
Experiential benefits, right.
Today, experiential benefits trumps over price.
Absolutely. Very true. In fact, I wanted to ask you about that too. But yes, people want to go to different places and really indulge in the real culture, food, style, everything else, lifestyle there.
They believe that travel is an investment. It's not a cost.
Oh, beautiful.
And we want to cash in on that sentiment.
Right, and deliver to them the value, wanting them to invest in traveling.
That is a give and take. You're investing with me, I need to drive that excellence in my service. And give you that proposition.
Superb. Well said. Okay, now, Khushnooma, your favorite marketing campaigns. Share one or two of your more memorable marketing campaigns that have helped meet business objectives in a uniquely impactful manner.
Yes, I think weddings, the Shadi by Marriott campaign singularly stands out as my most favorite campaign that I've done, even personally as well as professionally. A couple of years back, in about 2016, we decided that we would brand our entire weddings offering. It was every hotel was doing their own weddings, and we never really had a unified brand. And it was the vision of Neeraj Govil, who was our area vice president at that time, and he said that we need to localize our brand as well. We were always perceived as an international company, and if we were coming up with a really big bang campaign, it was critically important to brand it locally, and hence we called it Shadi by Marriott. So if you see, there's dichotomy in the brand as well. It's a local connotation with the entire international brand name. And we started off in 2016. We built the entire logo identity. We built collaterals. We started selling weddings with this particular brand name.
Lovely.
Then we launched it in 2017 in a very big platform. We collaborated with Abu Jani and Sandeep Khosla, who are very big designers. And we had a massive launch pad for Shadi by Marriott. And in that particular year itself, we could see that our weddings, financials had taken a dramatic turn because we had,
For the better.
of course, for the better, for a very upward trajectory, and we had given it the platform. And hence, that was one of the singular campaigns where I saw that, the marketing vehicle, if you utilize it correctly and effectively, it can drive great business results.
Lovely. No, that's really, really wonderful. In fact, there's another chain now, another 5-star chain, an international one, that actually sent us some release on weddings by, I won't name the brand.
Yeah.
But I see they're about 5 years late on that idea. But the more the merrier,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
and the reality is that we're all in the business of providing service to our guests, right? So I respect competition, and I think if a great idea can be incorporated, irrespective of who's incorporating it, I think it's purpose-driven.
Absolutely. I respect that thinking too. Nice. Khushnooma, there's an excellent loyalty program that you launched. Since we're talking about marketing and how you use tactical and strategic marketing,
Yeah, so Marriott Bonvoy is a loyalty program that we merged when we acquired Starwood. And 3 programs we merged to make it the Marriott Bonvoy. And today our loyalty program stands at, like I said, the epicenter of everything we do at the Marriott.
Okay.
Because we believe that if you can secure loyalty, you can secure long-term sustainability, you can secure long-term endorsement from your guests.
Much stronger hygiene filling.
Absolutely. And above all, being the number one preference and the number one choice. And so everything that we do, from operations, from marketing, we want to make sure that we garner many enrollments within our Marriott Bonvoy program. And more than just enrollments, we've actually entrenched with our loyalty members into making sure that they are using and they are activating and they are redeeming their points and they are seeing the benefit of being part of such a fantastic loyalty program.
That's really, really wonderful. So, Khushnooma, today AI and data are driving a great deal of marketing. How do you deploy data for marketing? Any interesting insights on unique ways of data deployment and their impact for the group?
Yeah, so it's a continuous process that we are using analytics to really identify valuable business opportunities, from the data. I think data is a gold mine. To be honest, it drives decisions. It helps us improve our marketing campaigns. It tells us where we are going right, where we need to deploy more, where we don't need to deploy more. Even for our sales engines.
Right.
For that matter, data is a pivot point, to be honest, in making sure that you're putting your money where your mouth is.
And in the right places, with all brand safety and no ad fraud and no wastage.
100%. 100%.
Goes without saying. Yes, please continue. Sorry I interrupted you.
No, so that's what I mean. So we use data in a very, with a very serious way. Have we reached that level where, we are absolutely savvy in terms of the kind of data we have and the kind of slice and dice that we need to do? Or we're getting there, to be honest. But the importance of data has been completely understood. It has been completely appreciated. And now it has been incorporated into our mainstream of operation.
Lovely. And it has an impact on, I think it's going to keep you completely insulated from being left out once third-party cookies are removed from the marketplace. We'll come to that in a bit, but tell me how important a part of your marketing is influencer marketing. I somehow tend to believe people I know personally about what brands to buy, consume, visit, as the case may be. And I don't believe influencers too much, honestly, because they sing for their supper, for a different brand each day. And I respect influencers because they reach their status and their level only after a lot of hard work. So there is a credibility issue for me. But does it work for you, influencer marketing? Do you deploy influencers to market your services?
We do.
Okay.
We do deploy influencers. It all depends on what you're selling. I'm very much of the same view as you. I think, for want of a better word, influencer marketing is slightly bastardized now.
Right.
And the reality is that, just like you said, where is the brand loyalty? I'd rather expend more money and get a brand endorser than have 5 people talking about the same thing.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, that totally dilutes the value that I need to drive as a brand and to create the unique differentiator from my competition. So whilst I believe that they give you the necessary immediate visibility, I think the long-term prospects of authenticating what the brand has to offer gets diminished marginally as we move ahead. So personally, I do not necessarily believe in incorporating influencer marketing in a big way. But in local markets where you are mushrooming, I think it's important. It's an important vehicle or a tool to bring it to the forefront.
For tactical customer awareness.
Tactical predominantly, not necessarily strategic.
Absolutely. Lovely. I'm enjoying this conversation, Khushnooma. Tell me, how much of programmatic and MarTech do you use for your marketing, and how do you ensure minimal to zero ad fraud and no exposure of your brand to brand unsafe locations and sites, like I mentioned some time back?
Yeah, so I think we deploy a lot of our awareness campaigns via programmatic advertising. I would say about more than 70 to 80% of our digital ad spends are attributed to programmatic advertising.
Wow.
And basically we run always on campaigns, to be honest. And so our internal digital teams really with our network partners, they consistently are striving to ensure that we are reaching our audience via credible channels.
Lovely, lovely. You know, Khushnooma, I must tell you this. We're starting something called Deep Brief. We already started it.
Sure.
But one topic that's going to come out as a huge deep dive. It may have come out before the podcast gets published because it takes a little bit of soundscaping, editing, mastering, publishing it, doing all the creatives and also.
Sure.
It's a bit of a process and it takes time. So it might come out before this podcast episode appears, but it's going to be a deep brief on programmatic, like your first time with programmatic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's going to be something which is really deep, 4,000, 5,000 words for youngsters to understand what the hell is this beast called programmatic.
Because it's intense.
And 95% or more marketers, they know, programmatic, kuch to hota hai. There is a panel, it can be done internally, it can be done externally, but that's about it.
But
Ad
first
fraud,
you need to study what it is.
So we just wanted to, I'm just saying, part of your L&D, etc., learning and development, how do you try and empower your people with, getting them to know more and more about stuff? Because your digital team handles, and 1 or 2 of your digital team will be the experts in programmatic, not everybody. So
No, certainly.
How do you go about that?
Yeah, so the thing is, I consider it a huge disservice to yourself if you do not keep yourself up to date with knowledge.
Right.
I think knowledge is a constant process. I mean, today I have reached a certain level of experience. I have not reached a certain level of knowledge. And so there are a lot of things I'm learning as well.
Sure.
And every day we're coming up with new jargon, new trends, new things to learn. And I constantly encourage my team to do that. So you may be handling PR, but that doesn't mean you don't know what's happening in the digital
domain
ecosystem or digital domain. So I'm constantly encouraging my team to either train professionally, either train through formal courses, or to constantly keep themselves abreast with reading.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you're not, you're going to be left behind.
Absolutely. Very true. What's your view, Khushnooma, on the upcoming demise of third-party cookies? I'm sure the Marriott International Group has its own massive first-party data by virtue of all the guests who've checked in and visitors to your properties too across India, the South Asia and APAC region and the rest of the world. But still, how will you look to navigate the digital marketing terrain once third-party cookies kick the bucket? If the two digital giants don't continue to delay their demise, and you know which ones I'm referring to.
Well, the loss of third-party cookies was definitely going to make it much harder for advertisers like us to really track users across the web and serve them, with targeted ads. And I think this is going to lead to less effective advertising and could reduce the overall size of our digital advertising industry. I think it is going to. And additionally, the loss of cookies will make it harder for publishers to monetize their websites, as they will no longer be able to sell targeted advertising. So this could lead to a decline in the quality of online content as publishers move to other forms of monetization such as subscriptions or paywalls. And I guess that is the reality, to be honest, but it is going to be a huge disadvantage.
Sure. The good thing is that Marriott International has hundreds of thousands of first-party cookie data because of people who already come in. So, yeah. And then, essentially, imagine, when you have a good B2B kind of a corporate deal and a family or a set of people go and experience the experiential side of travel or the enhanced kind of hospitality and services and experiences that you give them as part of a corporate deal, for instance, to enhance their value. Imagine the amazing word of mouth that you get.
Word of mouth is the most powerful form of advertising. Yeah.
Right. So there are two distinct groups, both corporate and individual customers across both of these groups. How do you market Marriott International properties and offerings to high net income or high net worth individuals and the rest? What's different there? Obviously, not just in terms of what you market to them, but also how you market to both cohorts across media mix and content deployed and direct marketing.
Yeah, I think the distinguished factor is not in the income bracket, so to speak. I think it's in what we want to sell, to who we want to sell, and what product do you want to sell. Typically, we have brands within the select serve category like the Courtyard, the Fairfield. They cater to a certain price point. And they are looking for a very different
cohort,
different style of marketing, I would say.
Okay.
Right? It could be a language. It could be the way you craft your message. There are a certain set of discerning audience that have traveled across the world. They have been exposed to a lot of narratives internationally.
Right.
And so the way you market to them is very different. It's a slightly more sophisticated form of marketing. And there is then a certain section of audience that is looking for a more simplified form. It's also reaching where they are going.
At their watering holes.
At their eye points, I would call it. If I can lock you with your eyeball, then I've achieved what I want to achieve.
Correct.
And so hence it's not really differentiating income groups. It's more where you are. And if you are where you are and if I'm there where you are, then you need to notice me. I think that's the important factor.
You will notice me if I am Khushnooma with my marketing team.
Yeah,
I know. I totally understand what you're saying. Yes. Khushnooma, purpose is a brand wagon everybody wants to clamber aboard, but I believe and have seen that several hotel chains are actively trying to inform and inspire guests to help them conserve energy and resources. And how is Marriott International, how are your properties in India, for instance, expanding the mindful experiences philosophy for social good? What are the CSR initiatives that are close to the brand? What proactive ESG related measures has your group of hotels introduced to help conserve energy, reduce wastage of resources, water, cleaning materials, light, LED, etc., energy? So tell me, how do you approach, how are you purpose driven?
Yeah.
I know you are, and I could list out a few things, but I want to hear it from you for the benefit of my listeners.
Sure. So CSR has always been extremely important to us as an organization. We've been doing a lot of work in this space, and not just because it's a statutory mandate, but the reality is, as a company, we believe that what you give is as important as what you get. And just one example is we have this Marriott home in Chennai that actually supports children with leprosy-inflicted parents. So they don't have leprosy, but their parents have leprosy, and as a result of which there is a lot of social stigma. And so we actually house them, we actually educate them, we provide them with opportunities, and a lot of our initiatives are run within the company in terms of fundraising to support the Marriott home. So that's really on CSR, and there are a many initiatives. We've just recently concluded the Run to Give. It's like a step-a-thon across the entire gamut of all our hotels. So that CSR is very, very defined. But today, over the last couple of years, sustainability has become very important.
Right. Tell me about that.
We are not there yet, but the reality is sustainability is being weaved into our DNA as we progress. So we've eliminated plastic from most of our hotels, really, to be honest. We're making sure that even within the food and beverage space, we are slowly and steadily incorporating sustainable means of, how you dine, what you dine, whether it's cage-free eggs or... It's not entirely possible.
The supply chain also is clean.
Exactly.
Right.
Now the reality is that it's a mammoth operation to become entirely sustainable. But the endeavor is to slowly and steadily start creating that consciousness. We recently launched the EV charging stations across some of our hotels.
Okay, the EV recharging stations.
Yeah, so we've just recently launched that. And I think these are some of the measures that we are taking as a company. Some of our other areas are a little bit more developed, but the infrastructure has to support sustainability as well.
Right.
But the reality is that give and take a few years, I think we should be making mammoth strides in this space.
Excellent. And I think throughout this process, what's ongoing at Marriott International Group of Hotels is keeping guests informed and inspired to conserve, to not waste, whether it's
100%.
water, electricity, whatever.
And the inspiring part is that our guests are ready to cooperate with us. Today, people are living a very conscious state of existence. I think the pandemic has resulted in people becoming more aware of your resources and how you want to conserve them. And I think when you are creating an entire community of individuals that are thinking on the same level of evolution,
You're creating a movement.
you
actually.
are creating a movement. You are championing a movement.
So you do all these wonderful things, and I'm sure that your initiatives across CSR, across sustainability to support both. How do you communicate those efforts to aware and conscientious potential customers? And do these efforts and measures help you attract more customers, inform them, inspire them?
Yeah, sustainability does. Last year, we launched this entire sustainable marketing campaign called Good Travel with Marriott. That was, soil conservation was a very big USP of our JW Marriott in Missouri.
Okay.
And we took that into the commercial domain and we actually positioned that as a huge endeavor that the hotel was taking in a place like Missouri under the Good Travel with Marriott campaign. CSR, I don't necessarily believe should be marketed.
Well said. Well said.
I think CSR is not something you do to market. I think it's something you do to create a social change. And out of the genuine goodwill for the fact that you're supported by the entire gamut of where you are operating in, and it's also your responsibility to give something back.
Absolutely. In fact, someone I respect told me, he said, Pavan, if you get the praise for whatever you do for CSR in your lifetime, then you will get nothing when you go up to God.
That's so true. I believe that too.
Yeah.
Your right hand should not know what your left hand is doing, right?
Correct. Very true. That's such a nice and such a realistic way of looking at, the insignificance of all of us, in terms of at least trying to do something to empower the society that helps us grow.
Absolutely.
Without talking about it. Wonderful. So, Khushnooma, amazing conversation so far. As a truly evolved, respected, accomplished marketer, tell me, going ahead, what would your advice be for marketers pushing the agenda of the hospitality industry in India? As marketers who enable and empower the sales guys, what must young professionals bear in mind? How can they improve? What are the essential, crucial qualities and attitudes every young marketer must possess?
I think, Pavan, the most important quality, according to me, is resilience. I think a lot of the new generation gives up really fast. You don't choose your parents, you don't choose your bosses. And the reality is that you've got to navigate through the hard times. And that is something that I would like every marketer, not even marketer, every professional needs to imbibe that into their sphere. But as far as marketing is concerned, I think you need to be on the ball. You need to hear, you need to keep your ear to the ground. You need to be able to sustain yourself over a long period of time. A lot of people just want to come, do 2-year stints and then look for a promotion, and then when they don't get that, they quit, right? And you don't make a career out of that kind of short-term view. And so the reality is that it's a great time to be in marketing because today it's in the mainstream of the entire hospitality industry. People have recognized that without marketing, it's impossible to put yourself into that bracket.
Sure.
And hence, I think I would encourage a lot of young marketing professionals to not just look at, it's not just the financial gain, it's also the growth opportunities. I myself, I've spent 19 years with this company. I came into this company when it was 3 hotels. Today we are 144 hotels. I don't regret for a day that I'm so many years, I'm literally like a relic in the organization.
Oh, you're anything but that.
No, but I've grown, I've learned so much, my dimensions, my horizons, and there's so much to learn. You spoke about MarTech, we speak about technology, we speak about so many facets that are not just restricted to traditional marketing. So the arena is huge for growth.
Khushnooma, you've always done great work for the Marriott Group, heading marketing for the entire South Asia region for Marriott International Incorporated. And I'm glad and grateful you gave me so much time to be on MVP, the Master's Voice podcast on Mediabrief.com. Thanks for sharing the insights and learnings from your experience, Khushnooma. I enjoyed my conversation with you. What did you think of our chat today? The questions and the flow of our conversation on the Master's Voice podcast.
So thank you, Pavan. Like I started this entire conversation, it's a huge privilege to be invited on your podcast. We've heard some great things and, I kind of follow a legacy of marketing leaders. So I feel very honored. I think it's very rare when someone sits across the table and has so much knowledge and has done so much of prep work and asks the right kind of questions to really help us really spotlight everything that we do. So what I got in terms of this conversation is that you hardly spoke about yourself and you just made sure that you gave me so much opportunity to really deep dive into the organization and to make sure that I'm positioning Marriott International into such a progressive organization. Which I really want to thank you for, because I think that's what I got out of this conversation. So thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Khushnooma, and thanks for the kind and gracious words, and thanks for having been on this episode of MVP, the Master's Voice podcast. Thanks also to Sharon Johnson of Avian We and Afsha Khalfe of your comms team for having made this interaction possible.
Thank you so much, Pavan. Thank you very much.
The accomplished hospitality marketing leader, Khushnooma Kapadia, Senior Area Director of Marketing, South Asia at Marriott International Incorporated, was my distinguished guest from this episode of the award-winning MVP, the Master's Voice podcast on Mediabrief.com. I hope you found this chat with Khushnooma as insightful and rewarding as I certainly did. Till we meet again in yet another episode of MVP, the Master's Voice podcast on Mediabrief.com, this is your host and friend Pavan Chawla saying, take care, stay safe, bye-bye.